I just sat here talking for like 20 minutes. I just sat here talking for 20 minutes and found out I wasn't even live. So I didn't push the right buttons. I think I have to push 2 buttons. Let me see. Am I live or not? Yes. Okay. All right. I have to start all over again. So I can't even remember what I said, for Pete's sakes. I don't know if I can repeat it all. I'm going to read this motion, talk about some things, make some comments, and then I will address the chat. Before I get going, I will let you know that the previous motion we looked at, that motion to dismiss, they struck that. And that was because, as we all expected, the people filing that motion weren't a party to the case. So this new motion was filed today. And this is a defense motion for continuance. And Sarah has a new lawyer as of today, August 30th, 2024. Okay. Comes now the defendant by and through the undersigned attorney and requests this court to grant a continuance of the 3-week jury trial set to begin October 7th, 2024. The defendant is set for trial by jury on October 7th, 2024. I'm going to stop and just mention that the judge, when he set this trial date, said there will be no more delays. Even if you hire a new attorney, that will not be a reason for delay. But let's see what the arguments are here. The defendant has just retained defense counsel, and a notice of appearance was filed on Friday, August 30th, 2024. 38 days remain before trial. Defense counsel has met with the defendant 4 times at the Orange County Jail. We need the count. Can someone do a ha ha ha? August 20th, August 21st, August 26th, and August 27th. During these meetings, the defendant disclosed potential exculpatory evidence on her phone in the possession of the Orange County Sheriff's Office. Evidence includes photographs, videotapes, calendars, text messages, notes, and witness names and numbers. The evidence will potentially corroborate her anticipated battered spouse syndrome defense. And I want to talk about this. There's 2 bits here that I want to talk about. First, do you remember when the prosecutor was telling Sarah in court, well, there's an extraction, blah, 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 about her phone, and she wanted the physical phone. And the reason I thought at the time she wanted the physical phone was to look through it, because she has stuff on there like contact names, like photographs. And I recall during her interrogation, she repeatedly said to the detectives, the pictures are on my phone. Look on my phone. She'd asked them to look on her phone because there's a picture of when George did this and when he did that. So I think that all along she has been documenting things, whether they're injuries to herself or things when they had an argument or whatever, and it's going to be in her calendar. There will be text messages and notes about those things. There will be videotapes and photographs of things that she alleges he did to her. The concern here, or my concern if I was on the prosecution side, would be, well, Sarah has a habit of telling only part of his story. Do you remember all that stuff about Bankowitz? Oh, he didn't talk to me, blah, blah, blah. And then it turns out, well, actually he had. So we know her behavior is that she'll give you the part of the story that she wants you to hear, or the part of the story that she wants you to focus on, and not give you the rest. Just like she told the police how Mr. Torres had assaulted her, And it turned out, well, the reason he assaulted her is because she was on top of him, strangling him, and he kicked her to get her off of him. So we know that she does that. So this evidence that she says she has, the prosecution's going to need time then if she wants to use that, because they're going to need to test whatever it is that she asserts. They're going to need to formulate all their questions and everything to argue back. And the issue of battered spouse. I have talked about this before, about why I think that will not work. And I'm not going to rehash all of that here unless you guys want to talk about that. I think, though, even let's play devil's advocate for a minute. Let's pretend we're on Sarah's side just for a couple of minutes here. And let's pretend that what happened in that house that night was that they were, as according to witnesses, they were in a knockdown, drag out fight. And let's pretend that he came at her. And so to defend herself, she hit him or did whatever it was that she did to incapacitate him. Whatever it was that she did to cause that sudden silence in the middle of that big, huge fight. And let's say she knocked him out or something and thought, oh my gosh, he's dead. What am I going to do? So she shoves him in a suitcase, and she shoves the suitcase down the stairs, right? And doesn't know what to do. She calls Brian. She called Brian that night, remember? And it was around that time, close to the time of that banging down the stairs. But then Mr. Torres wakes up. So if we're going to take Sarah's side and argue for her side, we're going to say, well, he woke up and then she didn't know what to do and she was afraid to let him out of the suitcase because he'd come at her earlier and she was too afraid to let him out. Well, I think that won't work either. And there are a few reasons why. First of all, if she thought she'd unalived him, then she could have called and should have called 911, right? But instead, she shoved him into a suitcase, which might suggest that her intention was to hide the results of what happened, right? Let's put that aside for a second. He's in there. He wakes up. If she's afraid, and she does call Brian and can't get a response from him, she could have gone to neighbors. She had no problem going to neighbors and the property manager in the past for help for all kinds of things. She could have called 911. She had no problem in the past calling the police and saying, I'm afraid. She could have called the police and said, yeah, well, I put him in there because I was scared and I didn't know how else to restrain him, but I can't leave him in there. And she could have done that. She instead left him there and made up this big hide and seek story. And she has been lying her face off all along. So even if that happened, I mean, who's going to believe her anyway, because she's a known liar? And the big thing is, there's a video that she took of her being vengeful, not scared, angry. She said to the responding officer on the scene, I thought I would give him some time and make him squirm. She wanted to make him squirm. So she was intentionally inflicting suffering. She was intentionally inflicting physical and psychological harm. She was being vengeful, and we have seen through her behavior with other people, she is vengeful. So that battered spouse here kind of goes out the window, I think, however, an expert might say something that proves everything that I'm saying is wrong. I don't know. Or maybe they'll come up with some different theory. I don't know. It's interesting, but I don't think it's going to fly. Anyway, undersigned counsel has spoken with numerous potential expert witnesses covering a range of possible defenses. Counsel is also actively vetting several additional experts upon directives from interested parties. That's interesting. Upon directives from interested parties? 7. It is the professional opinion of counsel that the retention of one or more of these experts and the development of the aforementioned defenses is a crucial and necessary component of the defendant receiving full and competent representation and due process under the law. And I hate to say it, but the lawyer has a point. They need to develop the defense. And it's this particular defense that is going to suit them best in their estimation. And he wants to be able to put on a full defense, a proper defense. So that's something to consider. There's the argument that this was already started. This process was already started, that Sarah, I believe, had already been interviewed by somebody in respect to this defense, that perhaps Sarah had disagreed with this defense in the past. So I don't know. There has been time spent developing this very defense. So I don't know how the judge is going to see that. There's an argument against what this lawyer is saying. All right, number 8. Based upon the conversations that have occurred, counsel has learned that proper diagnosis and development of said defenses requires time not only for administering appropriate testing, but also the necessity that any expert testifying on behalf of the defendant be given adequate time to establish a trusting relationship and then be allowed to apply the analytical tools to the information developed from interviews with the defendant and supplemented with historical and documentary information from third parties. So that sounds like a proper way to do an assessment. You do need to build rapport with anyone you're interviewing, especially on a subject that's so sensitive, and going and gathering all the other information to support and inform this assessment is an important piece of this. And yes, that takes time. But again, I think she already had an expert lined up through a previous lawyer. I think it was Hobson. And I think someone did talk to her. And I have a question here. Who does Sarah Boone trust? Is she going to be trusting any expert? Doesn't this sound a lot like where we've been before with this case? I don't know. This process, as described to the undersigned counsel by renowned and respected experts, cannot be accomplished in the time available before trial, particularly given the JAC ministerial hurdles, which must be cleared when dealing with an indigent defendant. And this is where I think the judge is going to have to really consider this request. Because now it's not the defense saying, our experts need time, I need time. The defense is saying the JAC requires certain time frames. They require a certain amount of time in order to complete things or do things. And that is not the defense's fault. They could at least argue that. So that might be a point which the judge has to really consider granting a continuance. 10. Notice of intent to rely on the battered spouse syndrome must be filed 30 days before trial. The notice must be filed by September 7th, 8 days away. The defendant has been deemed indigent for costs. The defense will need government funds to assist in paying the experts in this field. Defense motions will need to be filed concerning the potential Brady material. I believe, unless there's something I don't know about yet, the Brady material being referred to is in respect to Chelsea. But she was exonerated. So there is no more Brady material in respect to her. So I don't think that it's going to go anywhere unless there's something new that's popped up and I haven't heard about it. 13. The defendant has a right to be represented by counsel of her choice. The defendant attempted to solicit private counsel after the court's order dated June 28, 2024. The defense counsel responded to her advertisement and was retained. Wow. The defendant is not trying to delay the proceedings or abuse the process by retaining counsel at this late date. Well, the defendant is not. I would agree that the timing of retaining counsel isn't the way she's abusing the process. She just abuses the process in every other way she can think of. 15. The defense certifies this motion is made in good faith. I believe that the lawyer filing this is making it in good faith. And there's a memorandum of law here just citing the laws supporting what he's wanting. And it is signed by James Owens, Florida Bar. So that is it for the motion. And I suspect that this guy is doing this pro bono. Tony says she's abused the process since day one. Yes, she has. Candy Sugarman says this has, she names the other YouTube lawyer, written all over it. No, this is not that lawyer, Candy. This, L. Rush, Chelsea is the detective. Okay, I'm going to address that in a second. I'm going to talk about this lawyer. This is not the YouTube lawyer. This is James Owens. This is somebody else. And the bit about the detective was accused of falsifying a document and therefore put on a Brady list. And that case had nothing to do with Sarah's case. There was an investigation and she was exonerated. Chelsea was exonerated. She didn't falsify anything. And here's what happens. Defendants make all kinds of accusations against police all the time. And it becomes a problem because every once in a while you get a cop who either really messed up or is corrupt. And because defendants make all kinds of false allegations all the time, you can get really bogged down in investigating all this stuff because most of the time it's nonsense. Anyway, she was exonerated. So there is no Brady issue unless there has been something else that has come up in the meantime and I haven't heard about it. If you know something like that, email me. I need actual proof though. I can't use another creator's information and I can't use rumor. Oh, Teresa says this YouTube lawyer was going to try and help her get a different lawyer. Well, maybe that's what happened. This lawyer says he responded to the advertisement. Okay. If she isn't granted the continuance, will she blame the lawyer if there's a guilty verdict? I think she'll blame the judge and the court and the, as she puts it, corrupt system. She cannot, as I said before in my previous video, she can't say, oh, I have a right to a speedy trial, because it's the defense who keeps asking for these, right? Continuances. But we've been here before, right? Where she gets a new lawyer and the new lawyer gets to work and it's looking good. And I mean, remember Hobson? She seemed to be on cloud nine. She was so happy with him until he didn't do what she wanted. And then, oh, all of a sudden, she needs a new lawyer again. And all of a sudden, it needs to be continued again. It's the beginning of that pattern looks just like this. So what is to say that that same thing is not going to happen again? Can you imagine an expert coming in to try and assess her and developing a trusting relationship? Sarah doesn't trust anybody, right? Cashman was really nice to her, and forget it. I guess this lawyer pushes to accept plea deals hard. That's what somebody's saying in the chat. I don't know. Oh, I missed a comment here. Somebody was saying something along the lines of, you know, is the new lawyer sort of like her savior? I think there is this pattern with Sarah where this idealization and then devaluation and then discard. I think she does that. You're absolutely wonderful. I absolutely love you until the minute you don't do what I want or I'm bored with you, and then I will devalue you. And then when I've had enough, you're gone. So I think she does that. The judge did say there will be no more continuances, but I think because of the argument about the JAC's timelines and requirements, the judge might have to continue or consider this. And I wonder if he will grant her one continuance, maybe 3 weeks, and it's a firm, that's it. I don't know. What do you guys think? Horvath says Sarah is her own worst enemy. Yes, she is. She certainly is. The problem is in her destructive behavior, a whole lot of other people suffer too. Jane, even if Sarah was documenting aggressions toward her, she's not found innocent. And then the comment scrolled by. Yeah, I addressed that a little bit. Even if, first of all, so she's got all this documentation of alleged abuses by him toward her. First of all, if we don't know, there's no way to know because Mr. Torres is not here to defend himself. So we're only getting one side of the story. He can't say, no, the reason I hit her is because she was on top of me hitting me, which was the case in at least one documented case that we know of. And we know because Brian said that Sarah will get her claws out and he's been scratched around the neck. So we know that she has a history of physically aggressive behavior. Now, is this expert going to bring up earlier traumas and somehow relate that? But that's not an excuse for what she did. And the moment she switched into, sorry, I saw a comment and I wanted to respond and it went by. The moment she switched to vengefulness, I think she has a problem. And she was laughing right? Kay says no continuance would be long enough for what she wants anyway. I agree. She wants to for everybody to say she's innocent. She is wonderful and she's the victim, and that's it. That's what she wants people to believe. She won't accept responsibility. Tony, she's had 5 years of continuances. How many more does she want? Yeah. And this is the same thing. This is the same pattern repeating, right? She gets a new lawyer. The new lawyer needs time to get everything together. And that's what's happened. And it's reasonable from the lawyer's perspective. It's reasonable to be granted a sufficient amount of time to prepare. But I don't know. AKA the cat lady says, I really think this will get postponed. And I missed the tail end of your comment. Sorry. No way the jury is going to accept battered spouse. I agree. And I think that even logically, it's not going to fit. I mean, your comment talked about empathy. And I think there's an issue sometimes where people want victims to be pure as the driven snow and perfectly innocent. And there's no such thing, right? We're all human. We all, irritate each other in relationships. There's always something. We all have our foibles and our flaws and everything. So if you pick any human being and put them under a microscope, you're going to find something wrong with them. You'll be able to find a way to twist things around to make them look bad. And I think that does a disservice to victims that you can be strong, you can be imperfect and still be a victim. But with Sarah, it goes even further than that. This isn't a matter of, in my opinion, a matter of a victim just not being the perfect victim. I'm coming to think that she was actually the primary aggressor here, based on their respective histories and the patterns of behaviors that she's showing. Kara, she never wanted to go pro se, but she wanted a lawyer 100% dedicated to her and be on speed dial. Yeah. Let's see how long this lawyer lasts. And that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Who else thinks that she's just going to have the same problem? Suddenly, in 3 weeks, she's going to hate him and she's going to need another continuance because she has to be pro se again. So I don't know. So I keep checking. I haven't seen a court date set to address this motion. I don't know. I mean, the next court date is September 3rd. So they might roll it into that one. I also noticed, somebody's saying this lawyer is going to last because he's the first one who's doing what she wants and going with the defense she wants. I think she didn't want that defense. I think that's not the defense that she necessarily wanted. There was some discussion about that, I think, with Hobson. But, of course, we don't really know. That's just speculation as to what she wanted or not. Suzanne says she was telling the cops that George fell from a children's bike and he kept walking into the wall. What every abuser says. Yeah, can't tell you how many cases in which, a person bumped their eye on a doorknob. I mean, really? So, yeah, Tony thinks she's going to string it along as long as possible. I think so too. I think that she's just going to come to hate this attorney again. Although, this is the first time she's got an attorney after She had to go pro se. So she suffered a consequence, right? She didn't want to go pro se. She just wanted to keep her punching bag and play the game. And the judge was having none of it, so forced her to go pro se. So she's had a taste of what that's like. And she might decide that maybe she should be a little more amenable to some things, maybe be a little nicer to this lawyer to at least get through this. I don't know. But then you see her personality comes out. I don't know how much she can. Yeah, this lawyer, CB, is asking, why is she allowed to abuse another lawyer? This lawyer is not a court appointed a lawyer. This is somebody who has volunteered to do this. So this lawyer is doing this by his own free will. So that's his choice. Yes, Susan, the judge did say that there would be no continuances, even if she got a lawyer the day before. But the funding for the expert, because there are JAC requirements on filing times, they might have to actually consider this. So, I don't know. So, I think... Oh, you haven't been getting... Oh, okay. Sorry to those on replay. I'm reading the chat. I'm trying to keep talking without rambling and reading the chat at the same time. Y2K survivor. The lawyer may be playing the long game for his personal career. Maybe. He may be more interested in becoming a known name like Baez. Possibly. This could backfire. I mean, this client is incendiary. The whole thing could go down in flames, you know? Oh, the Brady list is not Brady material. Oh, thank you. Okay, I did not know that. So I just rambled on and about this big thing and I was wrong. So I totally made a fool of myself live. So thank you for telling me that. Now I'm going to have to go look that up. Lizzie says, why else would you take on such a case? I don't know. Maybe some people seem to feel sorry for her. The judge has a lot of patience with Sarah, Michelle says. Yes, I think, well, it's kind of a job requirement. And, oh, yes, I think that her having a lawyer is good. It's good for the public. It's good for the administration of justice. And it's good for the Torres family. Because if Sarah is pro se, she gets to cross-examine witnesses. And that would include Mr. Torres's brother. And that kind of thing is always fraught, right? So I think it's good that there's a lawyer involved. Yes, George, his family won't be questioned by her. Yes, somebody in the comments made a distinction that some people feel sorry for her, but that doesn't mean she's innocent, and they could feel sorry for her and still not think she's innocent. So much has already been done for this lawyer. So much has ready. Oh, I see what you mean. Yes, they have laid all the groundwork, right? So they do have already a lot of material that's all been set up. Uh, Lou Lucky 13 says that, oh, I can't see the judge saying I'll grant you a continuance even though I said I wouldn't because you got a new lawyer. I'm suggesting there might be a single continuance, at least considered, not because she has a new lawyer, but because of the JAC's filing deadlines. So, um, they require, it's not the defense requiring something. That's just, if I was on the other side, I would be arguing like that. So I don't know. Even if she has a lawyer, she might insist to take the stand due to her overconfidence. I don't know, maybe. I think even with a lawyer, she will make the entire trial a scene, Veronica says. Yeah, I think so. I think it can't help but be at this point. And she, it seems to almost take pride in how convoluted that she thinks all of this is. Y2K says, I feel sorry for her youthful self who became drug and drink addled. Yeah. Do you think the state will file an opposition? That's a good question. I don't I don't know. I think they might say, "Hey, Your Honor, we have been ready to go all along. Like, let's get moving." Uh, I Jay Borrego. Oh boy, I'm mangling your name. I'm sorry. I bet she's gonna want to, and I missed it. Sorry, I can't read the names fast enough. She will take the stand because she has to have her say. Denise is saying, maybe it may be that she will not be satisfied. Well, it's almost guaranteed that she won't be satisfied with what the lawyer does or with what witnesses say. She wants to put her own spin on it. The filing the other day, Kelly, was not a stall tactic by somebody else, I don't think. I think it was just some, those random people from California, and that the judge struck that because they're not a party to the case. You can't just go intervening in criminal cases because you think something or you're interested in it. There has to be a reason. She's going to be unable to control her tone on the stand, somebody said. Yeah, I don't know. In court, she's used to talking in court now, but she does this. She talks in a little baby voice sometimes, and then other times her anger just sort of oozes out of her, right? She's not very good at controlling herself, not as good as she thinks she is. Battered spouse defense blows up the unintentional. Yeah, and that's the other thing. She just lied her face off the whole time. All this hide and seek stuff. Thank you, Kate, for your comments. KD says, I feel pity for anyone struggling with addiction. Yeah. Kathy, she won't be satisfied unless she gets, I didn't see it. Public, something, the charges dropped. I think she wants public exoneration. I think that's where you're going with that. Yeah, I think she wants everybody to think she's great, right? Stinkerbell says he's a strip mall lawyer. I don't know what that means, except maybe his office is located in a strip mall. I don't think that has any bearing on the level of skill of the lawyer. I can tell you that having a lawyer, even a baby lawyer, remember in the beginning of this, I said, oh, even a baby lawyer could handle this case. So even if he was a baby lawyer, he's still going to be way better than Sarah, right? And just because I'll tell you a story. I worked in a small jurisdiction, and every once in a while we get the big city lawyers come down, and with the fancy suits and the fancy offices and the big towers and all that jazz. And they could lose a case just as well as any of the smaller town lawyers. So it doesn't, whether you're in a strip mall or in a big fancy office building, how much money you spent for your lease doesn't is not a reflection on how good of an advocate you are. Lizzie says he will know how to file things properly. Yes. And wasn't this lovely? Just reading through this, there were actual sentences and not big capital letters everywhere. And it was coherent and everything. Amazing. Carrie says, I have 0 words about this monster. Jay says, I'm peed. Rita says, it certainly gives me pause. I kind of think I missed some part of the chat because I'm not sure what everybody's talking about. His website says he has 35 years experience. Wow. Veronica says she thinks he's the flashy show-off lawyer, like billboard attorneys. He's still got a law degree. He probably attached to her for now to get his name out there. Somebody said, who knows? Who knows? Like I said, that could backfire, right? El Rush, it does not seem like he knows how to file things properly if he hasn't submitted an appearance. He may have submitted it and it's just not up on the clerk's site yet. Right? Shauna says, I hope the prosecutor will bring in evidence men who are victims of DV. Yeah. Yeah. He was 100 pounds. She was 130 pounds. Yeah. I think that whole issue is something that gets overlooked or minimized in society. No human being should suffer abuse. That's it. I don't care if you're male or female. Lizzie, or he just believes in the absolute right to counsel. Yeah, we can't, we don't know his motivations. And I mean, he's going to be doing this. He must be. I'm assuming he's doing this pro bono. I don't know that for a fact, but good for him. Regardless, if he wants to do this because he wants his name out there, okay, he's still got to do the work, right? Tony, Sarah was arrested for trying to choke. Yeah, yep. She was, and the original thing was she had called the police and she was making an allegation against him, saying he kicked her. And it wasn't until they dug a little deeper that they learned, oh, the reason he kicked her was to get her off of him because she was strangling him. And remember, Brian said he had claw marks around his neck that Sarah would get her claws out. So she has a history of being an aggressor. Lizzie, and it's still an immense risk for a lawyer. Yeah. Lotus Spider. That's a cool name. I've met people like Sarah when they get drunk. Yeah. And Ellie says, I don't think he's doing it for clout if he's been practicing for 35 years. I think his motivation is probably not really relevant. I think it's good if he is going to represent her, at least. I think it's good in the long term, too. If she was to represent herself, I mean, she would totally mangle it, right? Some lawyer could come along later and say, here are the grounds for appeal that I'm finding. Who knows? Well, I just want to know, in 3 weeks or 4 weeks from now, is she, or the day before trial, is she going to fire this one? Or disagree with the expert, or be so difficult that no one can work with her? So Jenny's asking about the discovery evidence review. Did it happen? That's a good question, because when I was looking at the information from the court clerk, I noticed that the September 3rd date still has on there for the review of the physical evidence. And what the judge had done was, originally he said, okay, you guys made an agreement, meaning the prosecution and Sarah, they'd agreed that they were going to view evidence at a different location. And so they wouldn't be needing the courtroom on that day. But the agreement hadn't been completely ironed out to everybody's satisfaction. And of course, I'm reading into that, Sarah's satisfaction, right? So they retained the date of September 3rd because they can do other things with that date anyway. So the fact that it's still there, the fact that that activity of reviewing the evidence is still on there makes me wonder if maybe they didn't actually finalize the agreement for her to review evidence. I don't know. So we're going to have to wait and see. Where did she get a lawyer out of a gumball machine? Queen of the North asks. Well, in this document, the lawyer says, I responded to the advertisement. So Allie says now she knows how hard it is to be pro se. I think she'll try and rein in her anger. Maybe. She may try. Will she be successful? I don't know. Yes, I've seen Jay's asking about, have I seen the clip of her running out to greet the cops? Yes. Yeah. And somebody sent that to me. Somebody sent that body cam footage. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about here, there was a prior incident. There was body cam footage of that incident in which Mr. Torres was arrested, and Sarah came running out of the condo like, hi, to the police officers and was really flirty. And I had remarked back to the person who sent me the footage saying, this could be argued either way. You could argue that from a battered spouse syndrome perspective. You could. Or you could argue it from the prosecution's end. So I think that's sort of it could go both ways. Kathy says, I don't think she's ever shed a single tear for Mr. Torres. Yeah, I haven't seen it. I saw horror in her face once. Mr. GST 360 says the guy has asked for a lot in that motion, so I'm convinced judge will meet him halfway and grant the continuance. Interesting. I think the judge will seriously consider it, or at least consider granting just a one time and then hard and fast. I don't know. Kara says, and she was inebriated in that video too. Yes, she was. Rita, the property manager, stated that she had to get firm and tell Boone to stop touching her. Yep. Hi, observation station. Commenter saying, I think she's going to play the game of having a lawyer, then go pro se, and have a lawyer go pro se till she's 90. Yeah, this is the thing. It's the same pattern, isn't it? Right? They all start like this. It's all wonderful. I don't know. She will never be Candace says she'll never be happy with her without a lawyer. She's just playing the game. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think the big difference this time is that she had to go pro se for a while and she learned, oh, there'll actually be consequences. You see, she's gotten away with everything all along. So she's going to expect to get away with the thing again, right? Until she didn't. And then it was like, oh crap. But I didn't. And then she started saying, oh, I was forced pro se. And she just really stressed that. So I don't know, maybe having had the consequence will change her behavior or at least tamp it down a little bit. I don't know. She got handsy. Shauna's saying she got handsy with Mr. Torres' father and she knocked him down. Yes. Yes. I've got that videos on my playlist. Yes, she did. And that was pretty awful. Mala is saying there must be enough material from previous lawyers. They don't need tons of time. Yeah. I think one of the big problems here and one of the major points that this lawyer is making is that the JAC requires that things be filed 30 days in advance. And the time isn't going to allow for that. So the lawyer is saying, look, it's not me saying I need 30 days. It's the JAC requiring that these filing deadlines happen. So I don't know. Cynthia says this is her first attorney that isn't a public defender. That's not the case. She had a private attorney in the past. She had a private attorney in the beginning and they almost went to trial. Detective Wab Buffett? No doubt Sarah will ask unethical things from Mr. Owens. I don't know. Yeah. I think she wants what she wants when she wants it, right? So if it happens to be unethical, oh well. Kind of like not letting your boyfriend out of the suitcase when he's telling you can't breathe. Shauna the banana. Also, I saw. Oh, sorry, the comment disappeared. It doesn't seem like George harming Sarah would justify her zipping him in a suitcase. Yes, she could have run for help. Yes, exactly. Rita, I don't think the judge will order the JACs to pay for another expert. I don't think the judge will allow a continuance. Yeah. And there's a motion already requesting a neuropsychologist. And I'm wondering if that motion now will be abandoned because this lawyer is focused on the battered spouse. So maybe they won't go after the neuropsychologist. What I did says, I don't think the judge will bend. And Detective Wab Buffett says, judge said in his order, no more continuances. Yes, he did say it had to be pretty extreme. So I don't know. Reese, I love your view on everything you do. Not sure who you're addressing, if that's me or somebody in the chat. Did she get an actual lawyer? Observation Station asks. Yes. It's up on the screen. It's got James Owen. Diana is saying, yeah, glad she got a new lawyer for Mr. Torres' sake, but I'm against continuing. I think everybody's fed up. And again, this looks the beginning of this pattern. It always looks good. Just wait until she gets to the point where she devalues and discards, right? She's like got these narcissistic tendencies if she's not a full-blown narcissist. Jenny, can't wait till September 3rd. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, Observation Station is saying, wow. Yeah. This lawyer said, yeah, he responded to the advertisement. Kara says, I think it will be one last continuance, and it will be January or February 2025, and that's it. I hope it's not January, because that is one heck of a long continuance. This lawyer is only asking for 3 weeks, I think, right? So I think January, I think that would be not good. I don't know that the judge is going to allow something to go that far out. Besides, in January, isn't Karen Reed's going to be back in court? So we can't, we got to cover both. So I think I've addressed a lot of chat. I guess Sarah hasn't considered someone asking her who zipped the suitcase. She already stated she zipped it up. She did say, I zipped him up. Fawn, if the lawyer gets continuance, the state will need time for Sarah to meet with their expert. Yes. And I think this is something that maybe Sarah hasn't considered. I suspect a lawyer would have had to tell her about that. But yeah, she would have to be examined by the prosecution's lawyer. They have, or at least they have the ability to demand that. Jay-Z says split 3 weeks. Give them a week and a half for a continuance to prepare. The continuance is really, I think, not really to prepare. I think the two parts of it is one, to get the experts, to give the experts the time, and the other is the JAC's filing requirements. Cindy says she's sick of Sarah Boone. Drop Dead Fred, did I read about Sandra Birchmore's filing? Yes, and I was actually going to do something on that, and I learned about this. So I will cover something about the Sandra Birchmore case. I'm going to look at some documents, but at this point, I just can't do it today. And I missed Kathy's comment here. There's a state witness list on the case records back in the Padilla era, and it's got a psychologist on it. Yes, there have been more than one psychologist on this. So they seem to keep switching with each new lawyer. So, okay. I think I think we're at a point where I'm repeating answers to similar questions. So I am going to end the live stream. Thank you for coming in and chatting with me and hanging with me and reading this document. Trust your gut. I'll see you in the comments.